At 12:04 a.m., just hours after burying her husband, a 30-year-old billionaire CEO stands outside her neighbor's door. Not a close friend, not family, but a single father living a completely different life. She can't go back to the empty penthouse upstairs. Of everyone in her world, she chooses his door, a man she barely knows, yet somehow the only place that feels safe. Follow my story to the end, hit like, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. The knock came at 12:04 a.m. Ethan Brooks had just gotten his daughter down. Maya had fought sleep for an hour, asking questions about stars and whether fish ever got tired of swimming, the kind of scattered thoughts that came when a 6-year-old's brain refused to shut off. He'd finally heard her breathing even out, that small whistle through her nose that meant she was really under. And he'd pulled her door mostly closed before heading to the kitchen to deal with the disaster zone of dinner dishes. He was elbow-deep in soapy water when he heard it. 3 soft raps against his door. His first thought was that he'd imagined it. It was past midnight on a Tuesday. Nobody knocked at this hour unless something was wrong. He dried his hands on a dish towel, moving quietly through the small living room so he wouldn't wake Maya. Through the peephole, he could make out a figure in black, head down, one hand braced against the doorframe. He opened the door. Vanessa Hale stood in the hallway in a black dress that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Her shoes dangled from her other hand, expensive heels he'd seen her wear when she left for the office. Her hair was still pulled back in that severe style she always wore, but pieces had come loose around her face. Her eyes were dry but rimmed red, like she'd cried herself empty hours ago. They'd lived on the same floor for 8 months and had maybe exchanged 20 words total, polite nods in the hallway. A brief exchange about a package delivery. She was the woman who left before dawn and came home after dark, who wore suits that looked like armor and walked like she was perpetually late for something important. He was the guy with the kid, the one who held the elevator when he saw her coming because it seemed like the decent thing to do. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice came out rough, like she'd been screaming. "I know it's late, She stopped, looked at him, really looked at him, and he saw something crack behind her eyes. "I can't go back up there," she said. Ethan knew about her husband. Everyone in the building knew. The funeral had been today, yesterday, technically. He'd seen the cars lined up outside that afternoon. Black town cars with tinted windows, people in expensive suits filing into the lobby. He'd kept Maya inside, away from the spectacle of it. He should have said something appropriate, offered condolences, asked if she needed him to call someone. But the way she was standing there, barely holding herself together, made all the polite responses feel stupid. "Come in," he said, stepping back. She hesitated for just a second, then walked past him into the apartment. He caught the scent of her perfume, something sharp and clean that didn't quite mask the smell of funeral flowers that clung to her clothes. His apartment was a mess. Maya's toys scattered across the living room floor, picture books stacked on the coffee table, a basket of unfolded laundry on the couch. Nothing like the sleek perfection he imagined existed in her place. But Vanessa didn't seem to notice. She stood in the middle of his living room like she didn't know what to do with her hands, still holding those shoes. "Sit," he said, grabbing the laundry basket and shoving it aside. "I'll make tea." "You don't have to." "I'm making tea," he said. It came out firmer than he meant it, but she sank onto the couch without arguing. In the kitchen, he filled the kettle and set it on the stove, acutely aware that he had exactly 2 types of tea: the chamomile he gave Maya when she couldn't sleep, and some generic black tea he'd bought because it was on sale. He went with chamomile, seemed safer. When he came back, she'd set the shoes on the floor beside her feet. She was staring at Maya's drawings taped to the wall, the ones his daughter insisted on displaying like a gallery. Stick figures with enormous smiles, a house with a door too big for its frame, a dinosaur that might have been a dog. "How old is she?" Vanessa asked. 6, Maya. He set the mug on the coffee table in front of her, pushing aside a coloring book. "She's asleep. Well, hopefully asleep. Sometimes she's a stealth ninja, and I don't hear her until she's standing right behind me." The corner of Vanessa's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but something adjacent to it. "I heard her last week," she said, "through the wall, singing something about wheels on a bus. Yeah, she's got about 3 songs in rotation, and she performs them at full volume." He sat in the armchair across from her, giving her space. Sorry if it's loud. It's not. She picked up the mug, wrapping both hands around it like she was cold. It's nice. Hearing her, they sat in silence for a moment. The kettle ticked as it cooled. Outside, a car alarm went off, then stopped. I don't know why I came here, Vanessa said finally. I was standing in my apartment and I couldn't. Everything in there belongs to him. The furniture he picked out, the art he bought, even the dishes. I bought new plates last month because he hated the old ones, and I just... She stopped, took a breath. I stood there holding my keys thinking about hotels, and I couldn't remember a single name, but I remembered you live here, and Maya singing, and I thought maybe... She didn't finish the sentence, didn't need to. You don't have to explain, Ethan said. She looked at him then, really looked, and he felt the weight of it. This woman who commanded boardrooms and made decisions that probably affected thousands of people, sitting on his couch in a funeral dress, holding cheap chamomile tea, looking lost. I should be sad, she said quietly. Everyone expects me to be devastated. And I am, I think, but it's all mixed up with other things, and I don't know how to separate it. Does that make me a terrible person? No, he said. It makes you human. She laughed, but it came out wrong, more like a cough. Human. Right. I forgot how to do that somewhere along the way. I doubt that. You don't know me. No, he agreed. But I know what it's like to be so tired you forget what you're supposed to feel. Something shifted in her expression, curiosity maybe, or recognition. Your wife? She asked. Ex-wife. She left when Maya was 2. He said it matter of fact the way he'd learned to say it. No drama, no wait, just a fact. Decided motherhood wasn't for her. Haven't heard from her since. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're good. Me and Maya. Better than good, actually. He meant it. The first year had been hell, but they'd figured it out. Built something solid, just the two of them. Point is, grief's complicated. Loss is complicated. Nobody gets to tell you how you're supposed to feel about it. Vanessa studied him for a long moment, then took a sip of tea, made a face. This is terrible, she said. Yeah, it really is. I think it's been in the cabinet for like a year. Why did you give it to me? Seemed polite. This time when she laughed, it sounded real. Small, but real. She set the mug down and leaned back against the couch, closing her eyes. The severe lines of her face softened slightly. She looked younger like this, more fragile. Can I just sit here for a while? She asked. I won't talk. I need to not be alone in that apartment. Yeah, he said. Stay as long as you want. She nodded without opening her eyes. Ethan picked up a book from the side table, some thriller he'd been trying to finish for 3 months, and pretended to read while she sat there in silence. He made it through maybe 2 pages, retaining nothing, before he realized her breathing had evened out. She'd fallen asleep sitting up, head tilted back against the couch, hands loose in her lap. He got up carefully, grabbed the blanket from the back of the armchair, and draped it over her. She didn't stir. Up close, he could see the exhaustion etched into her face, the smudged makeup at the corners of her eyes. She looked nothing like the polished, untouchable woman he passed in the hallway. He left one small lamp on and went to his bedroom, leaving his door open in case Maya woke up. It took him a long time to fall asleep, listening for sounds from the living room, wondering what the hell he'd just signed up for. When he got up at 6, she was gone. The blanket was folded neatly on the couch, the mug washed and left drying by the sink. No note, no explanation, like she'd never been there at all except for the faint scent of her perfume still lingering in the living room. Maya shuffled out of her room 20 minutes later, dragging her stuffed rabbit by one ear, hair sticking up in every direction. Morning, monster, he said, pulling out the cereal. I'm not a monster, I'm a princess. She climbed into her chair and immediately started swinging her legs. A dinosaur princess. My mistake. What do dinosaur princesses eat for breakfast? Lucky Charms. We don't have Lucky Charms. Then I'll starve. How about Cheerios and you don't starve? Fine, but I'm not happy about it. He poured her cereal and milk, then made himself coffee while she chattered about a dream involving a flying horse and a castle made of ice cream. Normal morning, normal routine. Like last night hadn't happened at all. Except it had. And he couldn't quite shake the image of Vanessa Hale standing at his door at midnight, shoes in hand, looking like the world had ended. He dropped Maya at school, fielded questions about whether penguins could fly. No, but they're excellent swimmers, and made it to work by 8:30. He was a project coordinator for a mid-sized construction firm, the kind of job that involved a lot of spreadsheets and phone calls to subcontractors who were always running behind schedule. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and had decent health insurance. His phone buzzed during lunch. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you for last night. I'm sorry for intruding." He stared at it for a minute before responding. "You didn't intrude. Door's open if you need it." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response came. He didn't expect to see her again. Figured it had been a one-time thing, a moment of crisis that would be forgotten in the harsh light of day. But at 11:47 that night, after Maya was asleep and he was watching a basketball game with the sound low, he heard it again. 3 soft knocks. He opened the door. Vanessa stood there in jeans and a sweater, hair down around her shoulders. No shoes this time. She looked at him and he saw the same exhaustion, the same desperate need to be anywhere but alone in her apartment. "Bad tea?" he offered. "The worst," she said, and walked in. It became a routine neither of them acknowledged. Every night, somewhere between 11 and midnight, she'd knock. He'd let her in. Sometimes she'd talk, small things at first. Comments about work, observations about the city, stories that didn't go anywhere. Sometimes she'd just sit in silence while he read or watched TV with the volume low. He learned she took her tea black despite it being terrible, that she had a tell when she was thinking too hard about something. She'd press her thumb against her ring finger where her wedding band used to be, and that she laughed at dumb jokes when she was tired enough to let her guard down. 2 weeks in, Maya caught her leaving early one morning. Ethan was making breakfast when his daughter appeared in the hallway, rabbit clutched to her chest, staring wide-eyed at the woman putting on her shoes by the door. "Hi," Maya said. Vanessa froze, one shoe on, caught like a teenager sneaking out. "Hi. Are you my dad's girlfriend?" "Maya," Ethan started, but Vanessa cut him off. "No," she said simply. "I'm his friend. I'm Vanessa." "I'm Maya. That's a pretty name." "Thank you. So is yours." Maya studied her with the intense scrutiny only 6-year-olds could manage. "Do you like dinosaurs?" "I don't know much about them." "That's sad." She said it with complete sincerity. "Do you want to see my stegosaurus? He has plates on his back for protection." "Maya, Vanessa has to go to work." Ethan tried again. "I'd like to see him," Vanessa said. "But I do have to be quick." Maya led her to the living room, produced a plastic dinosaur from the toy box, and launched into a detailed explanation of herbivores versus carnivores that was about 60% accurate. Vanessa listened like it was the most important presentation she'd ever heard, asked questions in the right places, and somehow made it out the door 15 minutes later with Maya's stamp of approval. "She's nice," Maya announced after the door closed. "But she seems sad." "Yeah," Ethan said. "She is. Maybe she needs more dinosaurs in her life." "Maybe so." That night, Vanessa showed up with a stuffed triceratops tucked under her arm. "Maya said this one was a herbivore," she said, handing it to him. "I figured she could explain the difference to me in detail." Maya, already in her pajamas, lit up like Christmas when she saw it. She dragged Vanessa to her room and proceeded to give her the full tour. Every drawing, every toy. The complete layout of her stuffed animal family and their complex social hierarchy. Vanessa sat cross-legged on the floor and listened to all of it. And when Maya finally wore herself out and climbed into bed, Vanessa stayed for the bedtime story. "She likes you," Ethan said later after Maya was asleep and they were back in the living room. "She's easy to like." Vanessa picked up the terrible tea he'd made. "She looks like you." "Poor kid. That's not what I meant." She took a sip, made the same face she always made. "She has your eyes. The way you look at people like you're actually listening. What other way is there to look at people? You'd be surprised." She set the mug down. Most people don't see me. They see the company, the money, the position. They see what they think I should be. But they don't actually look. That sounds lonely. It is. She said it simply, like it was just a fact she'd accepted. But there was something underneath it, something raw that she was trying to keep contained. My husband had an affair, she said suddenly. Multiple, probably. I found emails after he died, hotels, restaurants, a whole life I didn't know about. Ethan didn't say anything, just waited. And the thing is, I'm not even surprised. I think I knew. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew something was wrong. But I was so busy with the company, and he was always traveling for his work, and it was easier to not look too close. She pressed her thumb against her ring finger. We hadn't slept together in 8 months. We barely talked except about logistics and schedules. We were roommates with a joint bank account, and I told myself it was normal. That's just what happens after 7 years of marriage. Everyone goes through phases. But it wasn't normal, Ethan said. No, it was slow death by 1,000 cuts, and I let it happen because it was easier than admitting I'd made a mistake. She looked at him. I married him because it made sense. His family, my family, the business connections. Everyone said we were perfect together. And maybe we were, on paper. But we weren't. She stopped, frustrated with her inability to articulate it. You weren't friends? Ethan finished. No, we weren't. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Isn't that pathetic? 7 years and we were never friends. I don't think he even liked me. The real me, not the version I performed for everyone else. Did you like him? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Thought about it for a long moment. I don't know, she said finally. How terrible is that? I married someone and I don't even know if I liked them. You were young. People make choices when they're young that don't make sense later. I was 23, old enough to know better. Nobody knows anything at 23. I sure as hell didn't. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I married Maya's mom because she was pregnant, and it seemed like what you did. Never mind that we fought constantly, that she resented me for proposing, that we wanted completely different things. I thought marriage would fix it. Spoiler alert, it didn't. When did you realize it was over? The day I came home and found her suitcases by the door. She said she'd made a mistake, that she wasn't cut out for this, and she left. Just like that. Didn't even pack everything. Left half her stuff for me to deal with. He remembered that day with crystal clarity. The shock of it. The panic. Maya crying in her crib because she'd picked up on the tension. I was angry for a long time. Then I was just tired. And eventually I realized I was relieved. Because at least I didn't have to pretend anymore. Do you ever miss her? No. But sometimes I miss the idea of her. The family I thought we'd have. He shrugged. But then I look at what I've got, just me and Maya, and I wouldn't trade it. We're good together. We've figured out our own way. Vanessa was quiet for a moment, processing. I don't know how to do that, she said. Figure out my own way. Everything's been mapped out since I was a kid. The right schools, the right internships, taking over the company. Even my marriage was part of the plan. And now he's gone and the plan's all wrong, but I don't know how to make a new one. Maybe you don't make a plan, Ethan said. Maybe you just take it one day at a time and see what happens. That sounds terrifying. Yeah, it is, but it's better than following a map to somewhere you don't want to go. She considered this, thumb still pressed against her finger. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. You don't have to. I know, but I should. She stood, grabbed her shoes. At the door, she paused. Thank you for listening, for not, she gestured vaguely, for not treating me like I'm made of glass. You're not made of glass. Everyone else seems to think I am. Everyone else doesn't know you. She smiled then, small but genuine. You don't either, not really. Maybe not, but I'm learning. After she left, Ethan sat in the quiet of his living room and wondered when exactly this had stopped being just neighborly kindness and started being something else. Something more complicated. Something he probably shouldn't examine too closely. Well, 3 weeks after that first knock, Ethan ran into her at the office. He was in the conference room on the 14th floor, going over blueprints with one of the project managers, when she walked past the open door. He did a double take. She was in full CEO mode, tailored suit, hair severe, surrounded by three people trying to keep up with her pace. She was talking rapidly, gesturing with one hand, completely in her element. "Who's that?" Mike, the project manager, asked. "Vanessa Hale," Ethan said, still processing. "She lives in my building." "She lives in your—" Mike stared at him. "Dude, that's Vanessa Hale. She owns this building and about 15 others. Her company's one of our biggest clients." "She owns what? Hale Properties?" "Her husband died last month. It was all over the news." Mike looked at him like he'd grown a second head. "How do you not know this?" "I don't really follow news, Perka." "Apparently." Mike shook his head. "Man, she's been running that empire since her dad died 5 years ago. She was like 25, built it up even bigger. And now with her husband gone, she's sole owner of everything. We're talking billions, with a B." Ethan watched her disappear around the corner, those three people still scrambling to keep pace. "Huh," he said. That night, she didn't knock. Or the next night. Or the one after that. By the fourth night, he'd convinced himself it was over. Whatever temporary madness had driven her to his door, she'd worked through it. She was back to being Vanessa Hale. Billionaire CEO, owner of buildings, maker of empires. And he was back to being just the guy in 6B with the kid. Which was fine. It was better this way, probably. Cleaner, less complicated. He was almost convinced when the knock came at 1:17 a.m. on the fifth night. He opened the door, and she was standing there in a suit, hair still up, heels still on, looking like she'd come straight from the office, which, judging by the exhaustion in her eyes, she probably had. "Sorry," she said. "I know it's late." "It's always late. I had board meetings 3 days straight, and I couldn't—" She stopped. "I saw you at the office. Did you know I owned your company?" "Not until after I saw you, no." "Does it matter?" He thought about it. About the woman who sat on his couch drinking terrible tea and laughing at dumb jokes and listening to his daughter explain dinosaurs. About the empire builder who owned 15 buildings and commanded boardrooms. "No," he said. "Does it matter that I'm a project coordinator who makes probably 1% of what you make in a year?" "No." "Okay then." He stepped back and she walked in, and everything went back to how it had been, except now there was this thing between them neither of them was acknowledging. This awareness, this recognition that whatever this was, it wasn't just temporary crisis management anymore. She kicked off her heels by the door and collapsed on the couch. "Tell me something normal," she said. "Something that has nothing to do with contracts or acquisitions or shareholders." "Maya learned to tie her shoes today," he said. "Took her 45 minutes and she ended up with knots instead of bows. But she was so proud of herself she wore them all day, even though they kept coming undone." Vanessa smiled. "That's perfect. More like that." So he told her about the grocery store incident where Maya had announced loudly that bananas looked like smiles, about the park where they'd found a really good stick that now lived in their apartment, about the ongoing debate over whether dinosaurs would like pizza. "They wouldn't," Vanessa said. "Pizza didn't exist in the Mesozoic era. Try telling Maya that." "I will, next time I see her." There was an assumption in that statement that there would be a next time, that this wasn't ending anytime soon. Ethan made tea, the bad kind because he still hadn't bought better, and they talked about nothing important until she finally relaxed, the CEO mask slipping away to reveal the person underneath. "I'm selling the apartment," she said around 2 a.m. "The one upstairs. I can't live there anymore. Too many ghosts." "Where will you go?" "I don't know. I have options. I own several buildings." She said it without irony, like it was normal to have multiple properties to choose from. "But they all feel wrong. Too big. Too empty. Too much like places where I'm supposed to be someone I'm not." "What about here?" "Here? There's a unit on the 3rd floor, 2-bedroom. Smaller than what you've got, but it's got good light, and no ghosts." She looked at him, surprise flickering across her face. Are you seriously suggesting I downgrade to a smaller apartment in the same building? I'm suggesting you move to a place that feels like yours. Not his. Not theirs. Yours. She considered this, thumb against finger. It's probably too small, she said, but there was something in her voice that said she was already thinking about it. Probably, he agreed. 2 weeks later, he helped her move 3 floors down. Not much to move. She'd gotten rid of most of the furniture, keeping only what she wanted, what felt like hers. It took them 4 hours, and Maya supervised the entire operation, directing where boxes should go with the authority of a general commanding troops. "This is your new home," Maya declared when they finally finished. "Do you like it?" Vanessa looked around the empty apartment, boxes stacked against walls, sunlight streaming through windows that faced east instead of west, everything different from before. "Yeah," she said, "I think I do." The thing about proximity was that it changed everything and nothing at the same time. Vanessa living 3 floors down instead of 1 floor up shouldn't have made a difference, but somehow it did. She was closer now, more woven into the fabric of their daily lives. Maya started leaving her drawings under Vanessa's door, carefully colored dinosaurs with notes in wobbly handwriting that said things like, "For Vanessa." Because 6-year-olds weren't great at spelling, Vanessa started keeping them. Ethan discovered one evening when he went down to return a book she'd lent him and saw them taped to her refrigerator in a neat grid. "She's very prolific," Vanessa said, catching him looking. "I'm running out of refrigerator space." "You could tell her to stop." "I don't want her to stop." She handed him a beer without asking if he wanted one. Her apartment was still mostly empty. A couch, a coffee table, her bed visible through the open bedroom door. No art on the walls yet. No decorative pieces that screamed interior designer. Just space and light and possibility. "They're the best part of my day sometimes. Coming home and finding a new one." He twisted the cap off the beer. "She thinks you're lonely." "She's perceptive." "She's 6. 6-year-olds see things adults miss." Vanessa sat on the couch, tucking her legs under her. She was in jeans and an old sweater, hair down, no makeup. She looked younger like this, more real. "She asked me yesterday if I missed my husband." "What did you say?" "I said yes, because that's what you're supposed to say." And she looked at me like she knew I was lying and said, "It's okay to not miss people sometimes." Vanessa took a drink. Then she told me about a girl at school who used to be her friend but wasn't anymore because the girl said dinosaurs were for babies. She said she didn't miss her because people who don't like dinosaurs aren't worth missing. Ethan laughed. "That sounds like Maya." "She's not wrong, though. Some people aren't worth missing." She picked at the label on her beer bottle. "I keep waiting to feel it. The grief everyone expects. The overwhelming sadness. But mostly I just feel relieved. And then I feel guilty for feeling relieved. And then I'm angry at him for dying before I could figure out what I wanted to do about the marriage. It's exhausting. Grief isn't linear. Everyone keeps saying that, like it makes it easier. It doesn't, but it's true anyway." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Through the window, the city hummed its nighttime song, distant sirens, car horns, the rattle of a garbage truck making late rounds. Ethan had lived in this building for 3 years and had never once just sat and listened to it. "Can I ask you something?" Vanessa said finally. "Sure." "Why did you let me in that first night? You didn't know me. I could have been anyone." He thought about it. About the way she'd looked standing in his doorway, holding those expensive shoes, barely keeping it together. "You looked like you needed someone to not ask questions," he said. "And I guess I knew what that felt like. After Maya's mom left, everyone wanted to know if I was okay, if I needed help, what my plan was. Nobody just let me sit in it. They wanted to fix it, or explain it, or tell me it would get better. And sometimes you don't need that. Sometimes you just need someone to let you exist without commentary." Vanessa looked at him with something that might have been gratitude or recognition, or maybe both. "Thank you," she said. "For that. For all of it. You don't have to thank me. I want to." She finished her beer and set the bottle down. "I'm not good at this. Letting people in. Being vulnerable. My whole life has been about control and strategy and never showing weakness. And then you opened your door, and I fell apart on your couch, and you let me. You didn't try to fix me or tell me how to feel. You just made terrible tea and let me be a mess. The tea really is terrible, yeah, he admitted. The worst I've ever had. I should probably buy better tea. Don't. It's part of the experience now. He smiled. She smiled back. And for just a second, something hung in the air between them, something neither of them was ready to name. His phone buzzed. Text from his neighbor across the hall. The college kid who sometimes watched Maya when Ethan had to work late. Hey man, I can hear Maya singing. Just wanted to make sure everything's cool. He checked the time. 9:30. He'd been down here for almost 2 hours. I should go, he said, standing. Maya's supposed to be asleep, but apparently she's performing a concert instead. She has excellent stage presence. She has zero concept of volume control. He headed for the door, then paused. You want to come up? Help me convince her that bedtime is real? Vanessa hesitated, then stood. Yeah, okay. Maya was indeed wide awake, sitting in bed with her stuffed animals arranged in a semicircle, singing a song she'd definitely made up about a princess who rode a T-Rex into battle. She stopped mid-verse when she saw Vanessa. I wasn't singing, she said, which was objectively a lie. Really? Because I could have sworn I heard something about a princess and a dinosaur army. Maya considered this. Okay, maybe I was singing a little. It sounded good, Vanessa said, sitting on the edge of the bed. But your dad's right. It's bedtime. I'm not tired. Yes, you are. You're just pretending not to be because you think you'll miss something interesting if you sleep. Maya's eyes widened slightly. How did you know that? Because I do the same thing. I stay up way too late because I'm convinced something important will happen if I go to sleep. But you know what? Nothing important ever happens. The interesting stuff happens during the day, when you're awake and ready for it. What if I have a bad dream? Then your dad will be right there, like always. Vanessa pulled the blanket up. And you know what helps with bad dreams? Thinking about good things before you fall asleep, like your favorite dinosaur or the best stick you ever found. Or you, Maya said. You're a good thing. Something crossed Vanessa's face, too quick for Ethan to read. She touched Maya's hair, just briefly, then stood. Yeah, she said, her voice a little rough. You too, kid. After Maya finally fell asleep, for real this time, they stood in the kitchen not quite looking at each other. She's lucky, Vanessa said, to have you. I'm lucky to have her. No, I mean, you're a good dad. You're patient and kind, and you actually listen to her. You make her feel safe. That's not common. It should be, but it's not. She wrapped her arms around herself. My dad was great at business and terrible at everything else. He taught me spreadsheets and market analysis, but he never just sat with me and listened while I talked about nothing. He never made me feel like I mattered outside of what I could do for the company. That's his loss. Maybe. But it's mine too. I learned to be what people needed instead of who I was. And now I don't even know the difference anymore. Ethan wanted to say something meaningful, something that would fix it, but he'd learned that sometimes there was no fixing things. Sometimes you just had to witness them. You're figuring it out, he said instead. That's enough. She looked at him then, really looked, and he felt the weight of it settle between them. This thing they'd been dancing around for weeks. This awareness that something was shifting, transforming from grief-driven midnight visits into something more intentional. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. Okay? I mean it. It's late. You're 3 floors down. You'll survive the trip. She smiled, but it was edged with something else. Uncertainty maybe, or fear. Ethan, don't, he said. Whatever you're about to say, don't. Not yet. She nodded, understanding what he meant. That they were standing on the edge of something and neither of them knew if they should jump or step back. That timing mattered, and they weren't there yet. Good night, she said. Good night. After she left, he stood in his quiet kitchen and wondered what the hell he was doing. Getting involved with a woman who lived in a completely different world, who was still processing her husband's death, who probably needed time and space, and definitely not a single father with a mountain of his own baggage. It was a disaster in the making, Any rational person could see that. But when he closed his eyes, all he could see was the way she'd looked at Maya. The softness in her voice when she talked about bad dreams, the drawings on her refrigerator, the person she was trying to become. He was in trouble. He knew it. But he couldn't seem to make himself care. The next morning at work, he ran into her again. Literally this time, turned a corner and nearly collided with her as she came out of a conference room. She had 3 people trailing behind her, all talking at once, everyone trying to get her attention. "Sorry," he said, stepping back. "My fault." She barely glanced at him, already moving past, her mind clearly somewhere else. Then she stopped, turned back. "Ethan." "Yeah?" The 3 people behind her stopped too, looking confused. "I need 5 minutes," she said to them. "Conference room C. I'll meet you there." They exchanged glances but scattered. She waited until they were out of earshot, then said, "Are you free tomorrow night?" "Depends. Why?" "I have this work dinner, company thing. I'm supposed to bring someone and I can't face another evening of pitying looks and awkward condolences. Will you come?" "As your date?" "As my friend who happens to own a suit and can make small talk without mentioning quarterly earnings." She said it quickly, like she was afraid he'd say no. "Maya can stay with me. I'll order pizza, we'll watch a movie, it'll be fun, and you get a free dinner at an overpriced restaurant where they'll serve you portions the size of your thumb." He should have said no. Should have recognized that bringing him into her professional world was a terrible idea for about 15 different reasons. But the way she was looking at him, like she needed an ally, like he was the person she trusted, made it impossible. "What time?" Relief flooded her face. 7. I'll text you the address." "I don't have your number." She pulled out her phone, handed it to him. He typed in his number and called himself so he'd have hers. When he handed it back, their fingers brushed, just for a second, but long enough for him to notice the way her breath caught. "Thank you," she said. "You haven't survived dinner with me yet. I might embarrass you." "You won't." And she said it with certainty, like she knew him better than she probably did. "I'll see you tomorrow." Wall. She walked away, and he stood there, holding his phone like an idiot, trying to remember what he'd been doing before he'd crashed into her and agreed to something that was definitely going to complicate things. Mike appeared from nowhere, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Did Vanessa Hale just ask you out?" "It's a work thing." "A work thing where you're her +1 at a company dinner." Mike shook his head. "Man, how does that even happen? You're like a regular guy, and she's also a regular person," Ethan said, more sharply than he meant to. "Whoa, okay. Didn't mean anything by it." "I know, sorry." He ran a hand through his hair. "It's complicated." "Clearly." Mike studied him. "You like her." "I don't. It's not." He stopped. There was no point lying. "Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Does she like you back?" "I don't know that either." "Well, after tomorrow night, you probably will." Mike clapped him on the shoulder. "Good luck, man. You're going to need it." That evening, Ethan stood in front of his closet staring at the one suit he owned. He'd bought it for a cousin's wedding 4 years ago and hadn't worn it since. It probably didn't fit anymore. He'd lost weight after the divorce, then gained some back, then lost it again. Who knew what size he was at this point? He tried it on. It fit okay. Not great, but okay. The pants were a little loose, and the jacket felt tight across the shoulders, but it would work. It had to work because he didn't have time or money to buy another one. "Why are you dressed fancy?" Maya asked from the doorway. "I have a work dinner tomorrow night." "With Vanessa? How did you— Never mind." "Yes, with Vanessa." "Is it a date?" "No. It's a work thing." "But you like her." He turned to look at his daughter, who was watching him with the kind of knowing expression that 6-year-olds shouldn't have. "What makes you say that?" "You smile different when she's around, and you laugh at her jokes even when they're not funny, and you look at her the way Prince Eric looks at Ariel. I do not look at her the way a cartoon character looks at another cartoon character." "Yes, you do. It's okay. I like her too. She's nice, and she doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby, and she knows things about dinosaurs." "She knows very little about dinosaurs. You taught her everything she knows." That means she's a good learner. Maya climbed onto his bed and sat cross-legged, clearly settling in for a conversation. Do you think she likes you back? We're not. He gave up trying to explain it. I don't know, monster. It's complicated. Why? Because grown-up stuff is always complicated. That's a dumb answer. Yeah, it is. He sat down next to her. The truth is, I like spending time with her. And I think she likes spending time with me. But she's dealing with a lot right now, and I don't want to make things harder for her. How would you make things harder? By wanting more than she's ready to give. Maya thought about this, her face scrunched up in concentration. Jenny Robinson wanted to be my best friend, she said finally. But I wasn't ready because I was still sad about moving away from my old best friend. So Jenny just waited and kept being nice to me, and one day I was ready, and now we're best friends. Maybe Vanessa just needs time. That's very wise. I know. She said it without any modesty, just stating a fact. Are you going to kiss her? What? No. It's a work dinner. But if it wasn't a work dinner, would you kiss her? I'm not discussing this with you. That means yes. She grinned, looking far too pleased with herself. I think you should. Kiss her, I mean. She looks like she needs to be kissed. Not in a gross way, in a nice way that makes people happy. Where do you learn this stuff? Frozen, and Tangled, and Beauty and the Beast, and... Okay, we're done with this conversation. But done. Bedtime. Now. She groaned but climbed off the bed and headed to her room, throwing one last comment over her shoulder. You should still kiss her, though. The next evening, Ethan dropped Maya off at Vanessa's apartment at 6:30. She answered the door in leggings and a t-shirt, hair pulled back, no makeup. Pizza will be here in 20 minutes, she told Maya. I have 3 movies queued up and a bag of candy I'm not supposed to have, but I'm a grown-up, so nobody can tell me no. Can I have candy before pizza? Maya asked. Absolutely not. Your dad would kill me. He wouldn't kill you. He likes you too much. Ethan felt his face go hot. Vanessa's eyes flicked to him, something amused and surprised in her expression. Is that so? She said. Maya, why don't you go pick which movie you want to watch? Ethan said quickly. His daughter skipped off, leaving them standing in the doorway. Sorry, he said. She has opinions lately. She's perceptive. That's what worries me. Vanessa smiled, and there was something different about it, something that made his chest tight. You look good. The suit works. It's 4 years old and doesn't quite fit. It fits fine. She reached out and straightened his tie, her fingers brushing his collar. The gesture was casual, automatic, but it sent electricity up his spine. There. Perfect. He should have stepped back, should have said something light to break the moment, but he just stood there like an idiot while she looked at him, and he looked at her, and Maya called from the living room, asking if they could watch the movie about the ice princess. You should go, Vanessa said, not moving. Yeah. He still didn't move. Ethan. I know. I can't. She stopped, frustrated with herself. This isn't a good idea. I know that too. But you're still going. You asked me to. You could have said no. I didn't want to. They stood there in the charged silence, all the things they weren't saying hanging between them. Go, she said finally, stepping back. You're going to be late, and I have a 6-year-old to supervise. The restaurant was the kind of place where the menu had no prices, and the waiters wore suits nicer than his. Vanessa was already there when he arrived, standing near the bar in a black dress that was somehow both elegant and severe. She'd pulled her hair back and put on the makeup armor, transforming back into the CEO version of herself. When she saw him, something in her face softened. You made it, she said. I'm 5 minutes late. Traffic. It's fine. Everyone else is running late too. Corporate types are pathologically incapable of being on time. She handed him a drink. Whiskey. You look like a whiskey person. I am, actually. How did you know? Lucky guess. She took a sip of her own drink, wine, red, expensive looking. Fair warning, these people are going to be insufferable. Lots of humble bragging about vacation homes and their kids getting into Yale. Just smile and nod, and if anyone asks what you do, tell them you work in construction. They'll lose interest immediately. Should I be offended by that? Probably. But it's also true. She glanced past him. Here comes the first wave. Remember, smile, nod, be vague. The next hour was exactly as she'd described. A parade of people in expensive clothes making small talk that was somehow both meaningless and competitive. Everyone wanted to express their condolences to Vanessa, but in a way that felt performative, like they were checking a box. And everyone was very interested in who Ethan was and what he did until they found out he wasn't important, at which point their eyes glazed over. Through it all, Vanessa stayed close. Her hand found his arm when she introduced him. She laughed at his observations, even the dumb ones. And when someone asked how they knew each other, she said, "He's my friend," with enough finality that nobody pushed further. Dinner was interminable. 7 courses, each one smaller than the last, with wines paired to complement flavors Ethan couldn't detect. The conversation was all business, mergers and acquisitions, market trends, the challenges of labor costs. Ethan contributed nothing and nobody seemed to notice or care, except Vanessa. She kept glancing at him, checking in with her eyes, making sure he wasn't completely miserable. And every time she did, he wanted to tell her he was fine, that he'd sit through 100 of these dinners if it meant she didn't have to do it alone. When dessert finally came, something involving chocolate and gold leaf, the man across from them, a silver-haired executive whose name Ethan had immediately forgotten, leaned forward. "So, Vanessa," he said, his voice oily with false concern. "How are you holding up? Really? We're all so worried about you." "I'm fine, Richard," she said evenly. "Are you sure? Because I know James's death must have been, well, it's a tremendous loss." He said it like he was being compassionate, but there was something underneath it, something that felt like testing. "If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate. The board wants you to know we're here for you." "The board wants me to know they're circling," Vanessa said, her smile sharp. "Let's not pretend this is about compassion." Richard blinked. "I'm sure I don't know what you mean." "Of course you don't." She set down her fork. "But let me be clear, I'm not going anywhere. My husband's death doesn't change my position with the company. I built this business with my father, I expanded it on my own, and I'm going to continue running it exactly as I see fit. So you can report back to whoever sent you to feel me out that I'm perfectly stable, perfectly capable, and perfectly uninterested in any offers to help manage things." The table had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Richard recovered quickly, laughing like it had been a joke. "Nobody's questioning your capability, Vanessa. We just want you to know you're not alone." "I'm not alone," she said, her hand finding Ethan's under the table. "I have people who actually care about me, not people who are waiting for me to stumble so they can swoop in and take what I've built." Her hand was cold in his, her grip tight. He squeezed back, trying to communicate support without words. The rest of dinner was strained. People made excuses to leave early. By the time the check came, not that anyone gave Ethan a check, apparently Vanessa was covering everything. Half the table was empty. "That went well, he said when they finally escaped to the street. "I shouldn't have done that." She was pacing, her heels clicking against the sidewalk. "I just gave them exactly what they wanted, proof that I'm unstable, emotional, not fit to lead." "You gave them proof that you're not going to be pushed around." "Same thing, in their world." She stopped pacing and looked at him. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought you. This was a mistake. Stop apologizing." "But you stood up for yourself. You didn't let them manipulate you into playing small. That's not a mistake, Vanessa. That's you being strong. I held your hand under the table like a scared kid. So what? You're allowed to need support. That doesn't make you weak." She stared at him, something shifting in her expression. Then, before he could process what was happening, she closed the distance between them and kissed him. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was fierce and desperate and tasted like wine and frustration. Her hands fisted in his jacket, and he caught her waist, pulling her closer, everything else disappearing except the feeling of her against him. She pulled back first, breathing hard, eyes wide. "I shouldn't have done that," she said. "Probably not. I'm not, I can't, I know. This is too complicated. You're my neighbor, and we work for the same company, and I'm still dealing with my husband's death, and you have a daughter and Vanessa. What? Stop talking. He kissed her again, slower this time, gentler, trying to tell her without words that he understood all of it, the complication, the fear, the impossibility of timing, that he was willing to wait, to take whatever she could give, to be patient while she figured it out. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his chest. "What are we doing?" she whispered. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I don't think we can undo it now." "No." She pulled back, looked up at him. "I don't think we can." They stood there on the sidewalk while the city moved around them, both of them knowing they'd just crossed a line they couldn't uncross, that everything was different now, that there was no going back to midnight visits and terrible tea and pretending this was just friendship. "I should go get Maya," he said finally. "Yeah, okay." She didn't let go of his jacket. "Vanessa." "I'm scared," she said quietly, "of screwing this up, of not being ready, of wanting something I don't know how to have." "That makes two of us." "You're not scared." "I'm terrified, but I'm more scared of not trying." She searched his face, looking for something. Then she kissed him one more time, soft and brief, before stepping back. "Go get your daughter," she said. "I'll see you later." "How much later?" "I don't know. Soon, when I figure out how to breathe again." He walked away, leaving her standing there in her black dress under the streetlights, and tried not to think about all the ways this could fall apart. Maya was asleep on Vanessa's couch when he got back, surrounded by candy wrappers and with chocolate smeared on her face. The movie was still playing, credits rolling. "She made it through 1.5 films, Vanessa said from the kitchen. She'd changed into her leggings and t-shirt, washed off the makeup. She looked softer now, more like herself. And approximately 3 pounds of candy. I'm going to have a nightmare bedtime routine tomorrow. Worth it, though. She's fun." Vanessa handed him a glass of water. "We talked about dinosaurs and school and her favorite color, which apparently changes daily. Today it's purple. Yesterday it was orange. She's keeping her options open." They stood in the quiet kitchen, the weight of what had happened earlier hanging between them. "I meant what I said," Ethan told her, "about being scared but wanting to try anyway. I know. But I also meant it about waiting, about taking whatever you can give, no pressure, no expectations, just whenever you're ready." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you," she said, "for understanding, for being patient, for not making this harder than it already is. That goes both ways." He gathered Maya, still sleeping, dead weight in his arms, and carried her to the door. Vanessa walked them out, her hand lingering on his arm. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night." He made it up 3 floors before Maya stirred, blinking sleepily. "Did you kiss her?" she mumbled against his shoulder. "Go back to sleep, monster." "You did. I can tell." She yawned. "I knew you would. You don't know everything." "I know that." Another yawn. "But I know about this." She was asleep again before he got her into bed, still wearing her clothes, still with chocolate on her face. He'd deal with it in the morning. Tonight, he just stood in his quiet apartment and touched his lips and tried to remember the last time something had felt this right and this terrifying at the same time. His phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Thank you for tonight, for all of it," he typed back. "Any time." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "I don't know what I'm doing, neither do I, but we'll figure it out. Together?" "Yeah, together." The problem with crossing lines was that you couldn't pretend they didn't exist afterward. For 3 days, Ethan didn't see Vanessa. Not in the hallway, not at work, not at midnight when he'd gotten used to hearing her knock. His phone stayed silent except for Maya's school sending reminders about picture day and his mom calling to ask when they were coming to visit. He told himself it was fine, that Vanessa needed space to process what had happened, that pushing would only make things worse. But by the 4th day, he was starting to wonder if he'd imagined the whole thing. The kiss outside the restaurant, the way she'd held onto his jacket like she was afraid to let go, The texts afterward that had felt like promises. Maya noticed, of course. She had a radar for when something was wrong. Is Vanessa mad at you? She asked over breakfast, swinging her legs under the table. No? Why would she be mad? Because she hasn't come over and you keep looking at your phone like it's going to do something interesting. I don't... He stopped. There was no point lying to a 6-year-old who saw through everything. She's just busy with work. That's what grown-ups say when they don't want to tell the truth. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't pay attention sometimes. She took a bite of cereal, chewed thoughtfully. Do you want me to talk to her? Absolutely not. I could tell her you're sad. Girls like it when boys are sad about them. It's in all the movies. We're not having this conversation. We're already having it. His phone buzzed. He grabbed it too fast, nearly knocking over his coffee. But it wasn't Vanessa. It was Mike from work, asking if he wanted to grab lunch. He set the phone down harder than necessary. See? Maya said. You're sad. I'm not sad, I'm just... He didn't have a word for what he was. Confused, worried, afraid he'd pushed too hard and scared her off. Eat your cereal. That afternoon at work, he finally saw her. She was in a conference room on the 6th floor, visible through the glass walls, surrounded by men in suits who all looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. She was talking, gesturing with both hands, and even from a distance he could see the tension in her shoulders. When she glanced up and caught him watching, something flickered across her face before she looked away. He should have kept walking, should have given her space, but his feet carried him to the conference room door, and he knocked before he could talk himself out of it. One of the suits opened it, looking annoyed. We're in a meeting. I can see that. I need to borrow Ms. Hale for a minute. We're in the middle of... It's fine, but... Vanessa said, standing. Give me 5 minutes. She walked past him into the hallway, and he followed her to an empty office at the end of the corridor. She closed the door behind them and leaned against it, arms crossed. You shouldn't have interrupted, she said. You've been avoiding me for 4 days. I haven't been avoiding you. I've been working. Vanessa, don't. She held up a hand. Don't make this into something it's not. I needed time to think. That's allowed. I know, I wanted to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. You don't look fine. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Well, I've had better weeks. The board is circling like sharks. They think I'm too emotional to run the company. They're floating the idea of bringing in an interim CEO to help share the load, which is corporate speak for pushing me out. They can't do that. They can try, and they are trying. That meeting you just pulled me out of, that was 3 board members telling me I need to take time to grieve and focus on myself. Like they give a damn about my well-being. They just want control. What are you going to do? Fight back. What else can I do? She moved away from the door, pacing the small office. I have a meeting with our attorneys tomorrow. We're going to review my position, make sure everything's airtight. My father left me majority shares for a reason. They can't force me out unless I let them. Good. Is it? Because part of me wonders if they're right. If I am too emotional, too unstable. I kissed you on a public street, Ethan, after a work dinner where I basically told half the board to go to hell. That's not exactly rational behavior. It was honest behavior. Same thing, in my world. She stopped pacing and looked at him. I can't do this right now. Whatever this is between us. I need to focus on keeping my company, on proving to everyone that I'm capable of handling this. You are capable. Then why does it feel like I'm drowning? The question hung between them, raw and real. He wanted to close the distance, to pull her into his arms and tell her it would be okay. But he could see the walls she'd rebuilt, the armor she'd put back on. Touching her right now would only make her pull away further. What do you need? He asked instead. Space, time, I don't know. She rubbed her temples. I'm sorry. I know that's not fair to you, but I need to get through this first, and then maybe we can figure out what happens next. Okay. Okay? Yeah, take whatever time you need. I'm not going anywhere. Something softened in her expression, just for a moment. You should be. Running in the opposite direction. This is a mess, Ethan. I'm a mess. Everyone's a mess, you're just more honest about it. That's generous. It's true. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I don't think you're too emotional. I think you're exactly emotional enough. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve to work with you. He left before she could respond, before he could see whether his words had landed or just made things worse. Back at his desk, he tried to focus on spreadsheets and schedules, but his mind kept drifting back to the way she'd looked in that empty office. Brittle and tired and so determined to prove she could handle everything alone. That night, Maya asked 3 times if Vanessa was coming over. Each time, Ethan said no. Each time, Maya looked more disappointed. Did you have a fight? She finally asked at bedtime. No, she's just dealing with work stuff. Work stuff is boring. Sometimes it's important. More important than friends? No, but sometimes it has to come first anyway. Maya thought about this, hugging her stuffed triceratops. When Mom left, you were sad for a long time, but then you got happy again, with just us. Yeah, I did. So even if Vanessa doesn't come back, we'll still be okay, right? The question hit him harder than it should have, because Maya was right. They would be okay. They'd been okay before Vanessa knocked on their door, and they'd be okay if she never knocked again. But the thought of going back to that life, to nights that didn't include her sitting on his couch drinking terrible tea, made something in his chest ache. We'll always be okay, monster, he said, pulling the blanket up to her chin. That's the one thing you never have to worry about. I know, but I like it better when Vanessa's around. You smile more. I smile plenty. Not the same way. She yawned, her eyes already drooping. You smile like you're happy instead of just pretending. After she fell asleep, Ethan sat in his living room and thought about that distinction. Happy versus pretending. He'd been pretending for a long time after the divorce, going through the motions, doing what needed to be done, convincing himself that being a good father was enough. And it was enough. But Vanessa had reminded him that there was more, that he could be a good father and still want something for himself, that wanting wasn't selfish. His phone buzzed at 11:30. A text from Vanessa. I'm sorry about earlier. You didn't deserve that. He stared at it for a long moment before responding. Nothing to apologize for. Focus on what you need to focus on. I miss you. 3 words that changed everything and nothing. Because she missed him, but she was still pulling away. Still choosing the company over whatever was building between them. And he understood why, but that didn't make it easier. I miss you too. But I meant what I said. I'm not going anywhere. You should. This is only going to get messier, probably, but I'm staying anyway. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Then, why? He thought about all the complicated reasons, about midnight visits and terrible tea, and the way she listened to Maya like every word mattered, about funeral dresses and empty apartments and the person she was trying to become. But in the end, he kept it simple. Because I want to. No response came. He fell asleep on the couch, waiting for one, phone still in his hand, and woke up at 3 a.m. with a stiff neck and no new messages. The next 2 weeks were worse. He barely saw her, and when he did, it was only in passing, elevators closing before he could get on, hallways where she was always walking in the opposite direction. She wasn't being obvious about avoiding him, but she was definitely avoiding him. And every day that passed, the distance between them grew wider. Work became tense, word had gotten around about the board situation, and everyone was taking sides. Some people thought Vanessa was doing a great job under impossible circumstances. Others whispered that maybe she did need help, that running a billion-dollar company while grieving wasn't sustainable. Ethan kept his head down and his opinions to himself, but it was hard watching people discuss her like she was a problem to be solved instead of a person. Mike cornered him in the break room on a Thursday. So what happened with you and Hale? He asked. Nothing happened. Come on, man. Everyone saw you 2 leave that dinner together, and now you look like someone kicked your dog, and she's been in back-to-back meetings for 2 weeks straight. Something happened. It's complicated. Everything's complicated with her. That's kind of her whole thing. Mike poured himself coffee that looked like sludge. You know people are starting to talk, right? About whether she can handle the pressure. Whether she's stable enough to keep running things? She's more stable than any of those board members. I'm not saying she's not. I'm just saying watch yourself. Getting involved with the boss during a corporate power struggle is a good way to end up collateral damage. I'm not involved with her, but you want to be. Ethan didn't answer. Mike clapped him on the shoulder. Just be careful, he said. I like you. I don't want to see you get caught in the crossfire. That night, Ethan made the mistake of looking her up online. He'd avoided it before, not wanting to know more than what she chose to tell him. But curiosity won out. He found article after article about Hale Properties, about the empire she'd built, about her husband's death, and the speculation around what would happen to the company. There were photos of her at charity galas and business conferences, always polished, always in control. And there were comments, so many comments, from people who'd never met her, all convinced they knew exactly what she should do with her life. One headline stood out: Hale Properties CEO under fire. Can Vanessa Hale handle the pressure? He clicked on it before he could stop himself. The article was brutal, questioning her decision-making, her emotional state, her ability to lead. It cited anonymous sources close to the company who expressed concern about her recent behavior. It mentioned the dinner. Someone had talked, of course, and positioned her outburst as evidence of instability. He closed his laptop feeling sick. This was what she was dealing with, this constant scrutiny, this assumption that grief made her incompetent. No wonder she'd pulled away. She was fighting for her professional life. She didn't have energy left for anything else. His phone rang at midnight. He answered before the second ring. Did you read the article? Vanessa's voice was flat, emotionless in a way that was worse than anger. Yeah. They're trying to destroy me. My own board, leaking information to the press, painting me as unstable. And the worst part is, I gave them the ammunition. I lost my temper at that dinner, and now they're using it against me. You stood up for yourself. I gave them exactly what they wanted, proof that I'm too emotional to lead. She laughed, sharp and bitter. You know what's funny? When my father ran this company, he screamed at people all the time, threw things. Once he fired someone for bringing him the wrong coffee, and everyone said he was passionate, driven, a force of nature. But I get upset once and suddenly I'm unstable, too emotional, not fit to lead. That's not fair. No, it's not. But it's reality, and I need to deal with reality, not fairness. She was quiet for a moment. I'm going to step back. From the company. Not permanently. Just for a few months. Let them bring in someone interim, take some of the pressure off. Prove I can handle my personal life without it affecting my professional judgment. You shouldn't have to do that. Maybe not. But if I don't, they'll force me out completely. This way I retain control. I come back when things settle down and I'm stronger. It's strategic. It's surrender. It's survival. Her voice cracked slightly. I'm tired, Ethan. I'm so tired of fighting, of proving myself over and over again, of being strong when I don't feel strong. I just need a break. Is that so wrong? No, it's not wrong. He wished he could see her face, wished he could tell if she really believed what she was saying or if she was trying to convince herself. What does this mean for us? I don't know. I can't. I need to focus on getting through this. And I don't have anything left to give you right now. I'm sorry. I know that's not what you want to hear. It's honest. That's enough. Is it? Because it feels like I'm taking and never giving anything back. You've been so patient, so understanding, and all I've done is pull away. You've given me more than you think. Like what? Hope that things can be different, that wanting something doesn't make you weak. He leaned back against the couch. You've got to stop apologizing for being human, Vanessa, for having feelings and needing time and not having everything figured out. Nobody has everything figured out. We're all just making it up as we go. She was quiet for so long he thought she might have hung up. Can I see you? She finally asked. Not tonight, but soon. I just need to see you. Anytime. Tomorrow? Come down after Maya's asleep. We'll talk. Really talk. Not just me spiraling and you trying to fix it. I'll be there? Ethan? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me. I'm not going to. After they hung up, he sat in the dark living room and let himself feel the full weight of what he'd gotten into. Because it was heavy, this thing with Vanessa. It wasn't light or easy or simple. It was complicated and messy, and there was no guarantee it would work out. But he meant what he'd said. He wasn't giving up. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The next night, he knocked on her door at 10:15. She answered in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, hair piled on top of her head, no makeup. She looked exhausted and beautiful, and so vulnerable it made his chest ache. "Hi," she said. "Hi." She stepped back to let him in. The apartment was messier than he'd ever seen it. Papers spread across the coffee table, empty coffee cups on every surface. The evidence of someone working too hard for too long. "Sorry about the mess," she said. You don't have to apologize." "Right. No apologizing." She moved some papers off the couch so he could sit. "I officially stepped back today. Announced it to the board, issued a press release. I'm taking a 3-month leave of absence to focus on personal matters." They brought in Robert Chen as interim CEO. "He's good, fair, won't try to stage a coup while I'm gone." "How do you feel?" "Relieved, terrified, like I failed." She sat next to him, close but not touching. "All of the above." "You didn't fail. I let them push me out. You made a strategic decision to protect your position. That's not failing, that's being smart." "Then why does it feel like losing?" "Because you care, and caring makes everything harder." He turned to face her. "But it also makes everything worth it." She looked at him, and he saw all the fear and doubt and exhaustion she'd been carrying, and underneath it, something else. Something that looked like hope. "I don't know how to do this," she said quietly. "Be with someone. Let them in. I spent 7 years married to someone, and we never really let each other in. We just existed side by side, performing our roles. And I don't want that again, but I also don't know how to do anything else." "Neither do I. My marriage lasted 3 years, and most of it was a disaster. So we're both bad at this." "That's reassuring." "It should be. We're starting from the same place. No expectations, no pretending we know what we're doing. Just figuring it out as we go?" "Exactly." She studied him for a long moment, and he could see her weighing options, calculating risks, trying to logic her way through something that couldn't be logicked. "Stop thinking," he said. "I can't. It's what I do." "Try anyway." So she did. She stopped thinking and leaned forward and kissed him, and this time it was different. Not desperate or fierce, just soft and honest and real. He cupped her face and kissed her back, trying to tell her without words that it was okay to be scared, okay to not know, okay to just be. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "I'm a mess," she whispered. "I know. And I'm going to screw this up." "Probably. I will too. But you still want to try?" "Yeah, I do." She pulled back to look at him, searching his face for something. Whatever she found must have been enough, because she smiled, small and uncertain, but real. "Okay," she said. "Let's try." They spent the rest of the night talking about everything and nothing. She told him about growing up in her father's shadow, always trying to prove she was good enough, smart enough, strong enough. He told her about the early days after the divorce, learning to be a single parent, the fear that he'd fail Maya somehow. They talked about mistakes and regrets and all the ways they'd gotten to this moment. Somewhere around 2 a.m., she fell asleep against his shoulder. He should have woken her up, should have gone back upstairs to his own apartment, but instead he stayed letting her sleep, watching the city lights through her window and thinking about all the ways this could go wrong, but also, for the first time, letting himself think about all the ways it could go right. He was almost asleep himself when she stirred. "You're still here," she mumbled. "Yeah." "Good." She shifted closer. "Stay." "I should check on Maya." "She's fine. You have the monitor." He did, actually. He'd grabbed it on his way down, force of habit. It sat on Vanessa's coffee table, the small screen showing Maya's room, the steady rise and fall of her breathing visible even on the tiny display. "Stay," Vanessa said again, and this time it wasn't a question. So he did. They fell asleep tangled together on her couch, uncomfortable and imperfect, and it was the best sleep Ethan had gotten in weeks. He woke up to sunlight streaming through the windows and Vanessa already awake, watching him. "Morning," she said. "Morning. What time is it?" 6:30. "Maya will be up soon." "Yep." He sat up, running a hand through his hair. "I should go." "Wait." She caught his hand. "About what I said last night. About trying. I meant it. But I need you to understand something. This is going to be hard. I'm going to be hard. I've spent my entire life building walls and I don't know how to take them down. I'm going to pull away when things get scary. I'm going to overthink everything. I'm going to... Vanessa. What? I know, and I'm still here. She squeezed his hand. You might regret that. Maybe, but I doubt it. He left before Maya woke up, slipping back into his apartment as the building started to come alive. He made coffee and pancakes and tried to act normal when Maya shuffled out of her room, dragging her rabbit. "Where were you?" she asked, climbing into her chair. "What do you mean?" "You weren't in your room. I checked." She said it matter-of-factly, not accusatory, just stating a fact. "I was downstairs, talking to Vanessa. All night? Most of it. Did you kiss her again?" "Why are you obsessed with this?" "Because you like her and she likes you, and that means you should kiss. That's how it works. That's not... You know what? Yes. I kissed her. Happy?" Maya grinned, the kind of grin that said she'd been right all along. "Are you boyfriend and girlfriend now?" "It's more complicated than that." "Why do grown-ups always make things complicated?" "Because we're bad at being simple." "That's dumb." "Yeah," he agreed. "It really is." Later that morning, after he dropped Maya at school, his phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Thank you for last night, for staying, for everything, anytime. I mean it. Thank you for not giving up when I was pushing you away. You weren't pushing that hard. Yes, I was. You just weren't listening. Good thing I'm stubborn then. Very good thing." He smiled at his phone like an idiot, standing in the parking lot of Maya's school, and didn't even care who saw. That afternoon, he got a call from an unknown number. When he answered, a crisp female voice said, "Mr. Brooks, this is Jennifer Chen, Executive Assistant to the Board of Hale Properties. We'd like to request a meeting with you regarding Vanessa Hale." His stomach dropped. "What kind of meeting?" "We have some questions about your relationship with Ms. Hale. Given recent events and her decision to step back, the board wants to ensure we have a complete understanding of all factors that may have influenced her judgment." I'm not sure what you want me to say." "Just the truth, Mr. Brooks. Can you come in tomorrow, 2 p.m.? "I'm not sure that's appropriate. If this is about Vanessa, she should be there." Ms. Hale has been informed, and we're speaking with several individuals separately. It's standard procedure during leadership transitions. It didn't feel standard. It felt like a trap. But saying no would probably make things worse. "Fine," he said. 2 p.m. "Where?" She gave him an address, the main Hale Properties office downtown, top floor, and hung up before he could ask more questions. He called Vanessa immediately. "Did you know the board wants to talk to me?" he asked when she answered. "What?" "No." "About what?" "About us. About whether our relationship influenced your decision to step back." Silence. Then, "Those bastards." "Well, what do I tell them?" "The truth. That we're friends, that I made my own decision, that my personal life has nothing to do with my professional judgment." She paused. "Unless you don't want to deal with this. I wouldn't blame you if you just walked away. This is exactly the kind of mess I was worried about." "I'm not walking away. I just wanted you to know before I went in there tomorrow." "Ethan." Her voice softened. "Be careful. They're going to try to twist everything you say. Make it seem like I'm unstable or irrational or being controlled by emotions. Don't give them anything they can use against me. I won't. Promise me." "I promise." After they hung up, he sat at his desk trying to focus on work and failing completely. Because now the board was involved. Now this thing between them wasn't just personal, it was political. And he had no idea how to navigate that without making everything worse. That night, he told Maya they needed to have a serious talk. "Am I in trouble?" she asked, eyes wide. "No, but I need you to understand something. Things might get complicated with Vanessa. People at my work are asking questions about us, and I don't know what's going to happen. So if things change, if she's not around as much, I need you to be okay with that. But I like her. I know, I like her too. But sometimes liking someone isn't enough. Maya was quiet for a moment, processing. Are you going to fight for her? She finally asked. What? Like in the movies, when the prince fights the dragon to save the princess. Are you going to fight for Vanessa? There's no dragon, monster. The board is the dragon. You have to fight them so you can be with her. He wanted to tell her it didn't work that way in real life, that sometimes you couldn't fight the dragon, that sometimes the dragon won. But looking at his daughter's face, so certain that good guys won and bad guys lost, he couldn't bring himself to crush that hope. I'm going to try, he said instead. Good. Because she needs you, even if she doesn't know it yet. The next day at 2 p.m. saw Ethan sat in a conference room on the top floor of Hale Properties, facing 3 board members who looked at him like he was something they'd scraped off their shoe. Mr. Brooks, the woman in the center, Victoria something, he hadn't caught her last name, began. Thank you for coming. We have just a few questions about your relationship with Vanessa Hale. We're friends. Friends. She said it like she didn't believe him. And how would you characterize the nature of this friendship? I don't know what you want me to say. We live in the same building. We talk sometimes. You attended a company dinner with her, as her date. As her friend. She needed someone to go with her, and I agreed. And afterward, witnesses saw you kissing her on the street. So there it was. Someone had seen, someone had talked. Yeah, he said. We kissed. Is that illegal? Of course not. But it does raise questions about Ms. Hale's judgment. Getting involved with an employee during a time of personal crisis. I'm not her employee. I work for a construction company that contracts with Hale Properties. That's different. Semantics, Mr. Brooks. No, facts. And my relationship with Vanessa had nothing to do with her decision to step back. She made that choice because the board was undermining her at every turn. Because people like you kept telling her she was too emotional while simultaneously creating situations designed to make her react emotionally. Victoria's expression hardened. We're trying to protect the company. You're trying to push her out. There's a difference. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. And if you think questioning me is going to give you ammunition to force her out permanently, you're wrong. Vanessa is the best thing that's ever happened to this company. She's smart and capable and stronger than any of you. And if you can't see that, maybe you're the ones who shouldn't be on the board. He stood up, done with this circus. We're not finished, Victoria said. Yes, we are. Unless you want to threaten my job or do something else that proves exactly what kind of people you are. He walked out before they could respond, heart hammering, adrenaline flooding his system. He'd probably just made everything worse. But he'd also told the truth, and right now that felt like enough. His phone rang before he even made it to the elevator. Vanessa. What did you say to them? She asked, and he couldn't tell if she was angry or impressed or both. The truth. That you're brilliant and they're idiots. Ethan. I know. I probably made things worse, but I wasn't going to sit there and let them paint you as unstable just because you have feelings like a normal person. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, thank you for defending me. Nobody ever does that. Then they're all idiots too. She laughed, and it sounded like relief. Come over tonight, after Maya's asleep. I need to see you. I'll be there. And he was. At midnight, like always, except this time he didn't wait for her to knock. He went straight to her door, and she opened it like she'd been waiting. And when he stepped inside, she pulled him close and kissed him like he'd just slayed a dragon. Maybe in a way, he had. They didn't talk about the kiss at first. They just stood there in her apartment, his arms around her waist, her hands fisted in his shirt, breathing each other in like they'd been underwater and finally reached the surface. I need to tell you something, she said against his shoulder. Okay? James was planning to leave me before he died. I found the papers in his desk when I was cleaning out his office. Divorce papers, already drawn up, already signed by him. He was just waiting for the right time to serve them. Ethan pulled back to look at her face. When did you find this? 2 weeks ago. The day after I stepped back from the company. I was going through his things, and there they were, just sitting in a folder labeled Personal Matters. She laughed, but it sounded wrong. He'd already picked out an apartment, already opened a new bank account. He had it all planned out, and I had no idea. I'm sorry. Don't be. That's the thing. I'm not even hurt. I'm angry. Furious, actually. Because he died before I could have it out with him. Before I could ask him why. Before I could tell him that I'd felt it too. That disconnect. That slow dissolution of whatever we'd pretended to have. And now, I'll never get that closure. I'm just left with these papers and all these questions and no way to answer them. She moved away from him, pacing her small living room like a caged animal. And the worst part? I keep wondering if I'm relieved. If some part of me is glad he died before he could leave me. How messed up is that? I'm grateful my husband died so I didn't have to face the humiliation of a divorce. That's not what you're feeling, isn't it? No, you're feeling relieved that you don't have to pretend anymore. That's different. She stopped pacing and looked at him. How do you always know what to say? I don't. I'm just guessing most of the time. Well, your guesses are better than most people's certainties. She sat down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. The board found out about the divorce papers. Someone leaked it, and now they're saying I've been unstable since before James died, that finding out he was leaving me pushed me over the edge, that I'm not fit to run the company because I'm too emotionally compromised. They're reaching. Maybe, but it's working. I got a call today from 3 major investors, all of them concerned about the company's direction, all of them questioning whether I should come back after my leave. What did you tell them? That I'd think about it. She rubbed her eyes. Which is code for, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. Ethan sat down next to her, close enough that their knees touched. What do you want? Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want? She was quiet for a long time, really thinking about it. I want to not care, she said finally. About the company, the board, what people think. I want to just exist, without all the pressure and expectations. I want to wake up in the morning and not immediately think about quarterly reports and shareholder meetings and proving myself to people who will never be satisfied. I want... She stopped, looked at him. I want what you have with Maya, that simplicity, that certainty that what you're doing matters. It's not always simple, but it's real. There's no performance, no pretending to be someone you're not. You're just you. And that's enough for her. I want to be in a place where I'm enough, where I don't have to be more or better or stronger, where I can just be. You are enough. Not for them, not for the board or the investors or the media. I'm never enough for them. Then maybe they're the problem, not you. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and he felt the weight of everything she'd been carrying, the grief that wasn't really grief, the anger she wasn't allowed to express, the fear that she'd built her entire life on a foundation that was crumbling beneath her. I don't know how to walk away, she whispered. From the company. It's all I've ever known. My father built it, I expanded it, and now it's this empire that has my name on it. If I leave, what am I? Vanessa, just Vanessa. Not the CEO, not the billionaire, not the widow, just you. I don't know who that is. Then maybe it's time to find out. She lifted her head to look at him. You make it sound easy. It's not, but it's possible, and you're braver than you think. I don't feel brave. I feel scared and lost and like I'm failing everyone. You're not failing anyone. You're just figuring out what you want your life to look like. That's allowed. Is it? Because it feels selfish. Like I should be thinking about the company and the employees and all the people who depend on me, not about what I want. You can't take care of anyone else if you're drowning. He took her hand, laced their fingers together. And you've been drowning for a long time, way before James died, maybe even before you married him. She didn't argue, couldn't argue, because he was right. What if I walk away and regret it? She asked. What if you don't and regret that instead? You're annoyingly logical, one of my many talents. She almost smiled. Almost. Stay tonight. Not just for a few hours. Actually, stay. Maya, we'll be fine. She's got the monitor and she's 6, not 2. She can handle one night with you downstairs. He wanted to say no, wanted to be responsible and go back upstairs and maintain appropriate boundaries. But the way Vanessa was looking at him, like he was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting, made it impossible. Okay, he said. I'll stay. They didn't do anything dramatic, didn't fall into bed or have some grand romantic moment. They just existed together. She changed into pajamas while he checked the monitor, making sure Maya was still asleep. They made tea, still terrible, she still hadn't bought better, and sat on the couch talking about nothing important. She told him about a trip to Japan she'd taken when she was 20, back when she still had time for things like travel. He told her about the time Maya had convinced his entire neighborhood she was a princess, and he was her royal servant. Around 3 a.m., she fell asleep mid-sentence, her head on his chest, her breathing evening out. He stayed awake longer, watching the city lights through her window, thinking about everything that had brought them to this moment. All the wrong turns and bad decisions and perfect timing that had led to a widow knocking on his door at midnight. He must have dozed off eventually because he woke to sunlight and Vanessa already awake watching him. You snore, she said. I do not. You do. It's cute. Men don't snore cutely. We snore manfully. Is that even a word? It is now. She smiled, and it was the first genuine smile he'd seen from her in weeks. Not the polite corporate smile or the tight smile that meant she was holding something back. Just real happiness, uncomplicated and brief, but there. His phone buzzed. Text from Maya. Are you coming home soon? I'm hungry. He showed Vanessa the message. I should go make breakfast. Bring her down here. I'll make breakfast. You cook? I can scramble eggs without burning down the building. That counts. That's a low bar. It's my bar, and I'm sticking to it. 20 minutes later, Maya was sitting at Vanessa's tiny kitchen table, still in her pajamas, watching Vanessa attempt to make pancakes. The first one came out burnt. The second one was somehow raw in the middle. The third one looked like a crime scene. Maybe we should order in, Ethan suggested. I can do this. I just need... The smoke alarm went off. Okay, fine, we're ordering in. Maya thought the whole thing was hilarious. She laughed so hard she fell off her chair, and even Vanessa was laughing by the time Ethan got the smoke alarm to shut up. You're really bad at cooking, Maya announced, climbing back into her chair. I'm aware. That's okay. Dad's really bad at singing, but we still let him do it. I'm not bad at singing, Ethan protested. Both of them looked at him. Okay, I'm bad at singing, but I do it with confidence, and that's what matters. They ordered pancakes from the diner down the street and ate them at Vanessa's table, while Maya explained in exhaustive detail why Triceratops was the best dinosaur. Vanessa listened like it was the most important lecture she'd ever attended, asked follow-up questions, and somehow remembered everything Maya said despite clearly knowing nothing about dinosaurs. After breakfast, Maya dragged Vanessa to the living room to show her a new drawing she'd made, a family portrait that included Ethan, Maya, and Vanessa, all holding hands with a dinosaur standing behind them. That's us, Maya explained, and that's our guard dinosaur. His name is Steve. Steve the dinosaur, Vanessa repeated, something catching in her voice. Yeah, because we're a family now, right? The question hung in the air. Ethan started to intervene, to explain that families were more complicated than that, but Vanessa spoke first. Yeah, she said quietly. I guess we are. Maya beamed and ran off to add more details to her drawing, leaving Vanessa and Ethan standing in the living room not quite looking at each other. You didn't have to say that, Io, he said. I know, but she's right. You two are... You're the closest thing I have to family right now. The only people who see me as something other than a business asset or a problem to be solved. That's a low bar, too. Maybe, but it's a start. The next week was strange. Vanessa didn't have to go to the office, didn't have back-to-back meetings, didn't have the constant pressure of running an empire. Instead, she had time. Too much time, actually. She didn't know what to do with herself. She tried sleeping in but woke up at 6 anyway, her body conditioned to years of early mornings. She tried reading but couldn't focus. She tried going for walks but felt exposed, like everyone was staring at her, judging her for taking time off. "You're not good at relaxing," Ethan observed on the third day, finding her pacing her apartment at noon. "I don't know how to do nothing. I've been working since I was 16. Even before that, really. School was just training for work. Everything's always been about productivity and achievement and doing more. And now I'm just here, with nothing to do and no idea what I'm supposed to be." "You're supposed to be whatever you want." "But what do I want? That's the problem. I don't know." "Then figure it out. You've got 3 months. Use them." "For what?" "Whatever makes you happy. Read trashy novels. Learn to cook something that isn't a disaster. Take a pottery class. Go to the movies in the middle of the day like a rebel. Do all the things you never had time for." That sounds like a midlife crisis. Or a breakthrough. Depends on how you look at it. She considered this. "Will you help me?" "Help you have a midlife crisis?" "Help me figure out what I like, what makes me happy. I don't trust my own judgment on this stuff, but I trust yours." It was such a vulnerable admission, such a departure from the controlled woman who'd shown up at his door in a funeral dress, that Ethan felt something shift in his chest. "Yeah," he said, "I'll help." So they made a list. Vanessa, who was used to planning mergers and acquisitions, approached finding herself with the same strategic mindset. She wrote down potential activities, ranked them by feasibility, created a schedule. Ethan took one look at it and laughed. "What?" she asked, defensive. "You're treating joy like a business plan." "I don't know any other way." "I know. That's the problem." He grabbed the list and crumpled it up. "No schedule, no rankings. We're doing this spontaneously. I hate spontaneity." "I know. That's why we're starting there." Their first spontaneous activity was the zoo. Maya came with them, naturally, and spent the entire time narrating facts about every animal they saw, most of which were completely made up. Vanessa listened with the same attention she probably gave board presentations, occasionally asking questions that sent Maya into longer explanations. "Penguins aren't that aerodynamic," Ethan whispered at one point. "I know, but she's so confident about it. She gets that from me." "The confidence or the being wrong?" "Both." At the tiger exhibit, Maya announced she was bored with cats and wanted to see the dinosaurs. When Ethan explained there were no dinosaurs because they were extinct, she looked at him like he'd just told her Santa wasn't real. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard," she said. "It happened millions of years ago, monster. They've been gone a long time. Still sad." She turned to Vanessa. "Don't you think it's sad?" "The saddest," Vanessa agreed solemnly. They got ice cream after, sitting on a bench while Maya chased pigeons and detailed her plans to invent a time machine specifically to visit dinosaurs. Vanessa's cone was melting down her hand and she didn't even notice, too busy watching Maya with something like wonder on her face. "You're good with her," Ethan said. "She makes it easy." "Not everyone thinks kids are easy." "Her mom did. Think it was easy to leave. I mean," Vanessa looked at him. "How do you not hate her for that?" "I did, for a long time. But hating her was exhausting and it wasn't changing anything. So eventually I just let it go. Focused on what I had instead of what I'd lost." "That's very mature." "That's very tired of being angry." She licked her ice cream, thoughtful. "Do you think she ever regrets it, leaving?" "I don't know, maybe, but it doesn't matter. She made her choice and I made mine. We're good, me and Maya." "Better than good. We don't need her." "But you wanted to need her, at first." "Yeah, I did. I wanted the family I thought we'd have. The partnership. Someone to share everything with." He paused. "But wanting something doesn't mean you're supposed to have it. Sometimes the thing you want isn't the thing that's good for you." Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. "I wanted my marriage to work, even when it was clear it wasn't working. Even when we were basically strangers living in the same apartment. I kept thinking if I just tried harder, wanted it more, I could fix it. But you can't fix something when the other person's already gone." "No, you can't. James had already left me, long before he drew up those papers. I was just too busy to notice. Or maybe you did notice and just couldn't admit it yet." She considered this, then called out to Maya, who was now trying to befriend a particularly aggressive pigeon. "You're going to get pecked." "I won't. I speak pigeon." "Nobody speaks pigeon. I do. The pigeon flew away. Maya looked personally betrayed. I told him we were friends, she said, walking back to them. Sometimes pigeons aren't looking for friends, Vanessa said. That's their loss. Later that evening, after Maya was in bed, Vanessa came upstairs instead of Ethan going down. It was a small shift, but it felt significant. Her in his space instead of always him in hers. Your apartment's smaller than I expected, she said, looking around. That's polite speak for your apartment's tiny. No, I mean, I thought it would feel cramped, but it's nice, lived in, like people actually exist here instead of just passing through. That's what happens when you actually live somewhere instead of treating it like a hotel. She walked around examining things. The photos on the wall, mostly of Maya at various ages, a few of him and his parents. The bookshelf crammed with paperbacks and picture books. The kitchen with its mismatched dishes and the drawing Maya had made that morning still on the fridge. I don't have any photos, she said suddenly. In my apartment, not a single one. I never even noticed until now. Why not? I don't know. The decorator said photos were too personal for the aesthetic. And I agreed. Let someone else decide what my home should look like, what I should surround myself with. She touched the edge of a frame. I don't even know who that person was, the one who thought photos were too personal for her own apartment. You were surviving, Ethan said, playing the role you thought you had to play. That's not the same as being yourself. How do you always know the right thing to say? I don't. You just want to believe I do. She turned to face him. I'm starting to figure it out. What I want. What makes me happy. Yeah? Yeah. She closed the distance between them. You make me happy. Maya makes me happy. She gestured around his small, cluttered apartment. This makes me happy. The realness of it. The lack of performance. I can just be here and nobody expects anything from me except to exist. That's all anyone should expect. But they don't. Everyone wants something. The board wants control. The investors want profits. The media wants a story. Everyone wants me to be something for them. Except you. You let me be. That's not special. That's basic human decency. It's rarer than you think. She kissed him, and this time there was no desperation or fear behind it, just certainty. Just this moment and this person and the knowledge that whatever happened next, they'd figure it out together. They ended up on his couch, talking about everything and nothing until the early hours of the morning. She told him about board members she couldn't stand, about the weight of carrying her father's legacy, about all the ways she'd bent herself into shapes that didn't fit. He told her about the terror of single parenthood, about learning to braid hair from YouTube videos, about all the small victories that added up to a life. I want this, she said around 2 a.m., her head on his chest. This life, this simplicity. I don't want to go back. To the company? To any of it. The board, the pressure, the constant performance. I want out. What would you do instead? I don't know. Something smaller. Something that actually matters. Something where I can see the impact instead of just reading about it in quarterly reports. You'd walk away from billions of dollars? It's not my money. Not really. It's the company's money. My father's money. I manage it. And I'm tired of managing someone else's dream. I want my own. So walk away. It's not that simple. Why not? Because she stopped, thought about it. I don't actually know. I keep saying it's complicated, but maybe it's not. Maybe I just stay because I'm scared of what happens if I leave. Who I'll be without it. You'll be you, just without the weight. That sounds nice. It is nice. She was quiet for a long moment, and he thought she might have fallen asleep. But then she said, what if I mess this up? Us? What if I get scared and pull away again? What if I'm too broken to actually be with someone? Then we'll deal with it, together. No running, no hiding. We'll just figure it out. You make it sound easy. It's not, but it's worth it. She lifted her head to look at him. How do you know? Because you're worth it. Something broke open in her expression, something that had been locked away for a long time. And when she kissed him this time, it tasted like relief. like finally coming home after being lost for years. The next morning, Vanessa called her attorneys, told them to draw up papers to sell her majority stake in Hale Properties, told them she was done, that she wanted out, that she'd stay on in an advisory capacity if needed, but she was stepping away from day-to-day operations permanently. "Are you sure?" her lead attorney asked. "This is a significant decision." "I'm sure." "The board will fight this." "Let them. It's my company to sell." After she hung up, she sat in her apartment staring at her phone like it might explode. Ethan found her like that an hour later when he came down before heading to work. "I did it," she said. "I'm selling. I'm actually doing it." "How do you feel?" "Terrified, relieved, like I just jumped off a cliff and I don't know if there's water at the bottom or rocks." "There's water," he said, "and even if there's rocks, you'll figure out how to swim around them. You have a lot of faith in me. Someone has to." She stood up, walked over to him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and held on like he was the only solid thing in a world that had just tilted sideways. "Stay with me today," she said. "Call in sick. Play hooky. Whatever. I need you here. I can't. I've got 3 meetings and a deadline. Please." He should have said no, should have been responsible, but the way she was holding him, the vulnerability in that single word, made him pull out his phone and text Mike that something had come up and he wouldn't be in. They spent the day doing absolutely nothing important, watched bad movies, ordered Thai food for lunch, played board games with Maya after school, during which Vanessa proved to be ruthlessly competitive at Candyland. "It's a children's game," Ethan pointed out after she won for the 3rd time. "Winning is winning. You're taking this very seriously." "I take everything seriously. It's my main personality trait." Maya, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly said, "Are you going to live here now?" "What?" Vanessa looked startled by the question. "Dad said you're leaving your company, so are you going to live with us? Because you're here all the time anyway, and it would be easier if you just moved in." "Maya," Ethan started. "I think it's a good idea, Key," his daughter continued, undeterred. "You don't like your apartment, and you like being here, and we like having you here. So it makes sense. That's not... Relationships don't work like that, monster." "Why not?" "Because they're complicated." "But you always say things don't have to be complicated. You say grown-ups make things complicated when they should be simple. So why can't this be simple?" Ethan looked at Vanessa, who was staring at Maya like she'd just proposed something revolutionary. "She has a point," Vanessa said slowly. "You're not seriously considering this." "Why not? She's right. I'm here all the time anyway, and I don't like my apartment. And moving in together would be..." She stopped. "Terrifying. It would be terrifying. We've known each other for 3 months. People don't move in together after 3 months." "Some people do," Maya said. "Princess Anna and Kristoff moved in together right away." "That's a cartoon, monster." "So, it's still true." Vanessa laughed, and it was the first time Ethan had heard her laugh without any edge to it. Just pure amusement at the absurdity of taking relationship advice from a 6-year-old and a Disney movie. "I'm not moving in," she said. "Not yet, anyway. But I'll think about it." "That's grown-up speak for, I'm scared, but I want to," Maya observed. "When did you become a relationship expert?" "I watch a lot of movies, and I pay attention." That night, after Maya was asleep, Vanessa and Ethan sat on his couch in comfortable silence. "She's not wrong," Vanessa said finally, "about it making sense, and about me being scared. We don't have to rush anything. I know, but I'm 30 years old, and I've never actually lived with someone I loved. James and I shared an apartment, but we were roommates, not partners. And before that, I lived alone or with my parents. I don't know how to share space with someone, how to compromise, how to be domestic." "You learn. Like everything else." "What if I'm bad at it?" "Then you'll be bad at it, and we'll figure it out." She looked at him. "You're very calm about all this." "One of us has to be, and you're using up all the anxiety, so I figured I'd take the calm." "That's very considerate of you." "I'm a considerate guy." She leaned against him, fitting into his side like she'd always belonged there. And maybe she had. Maybe that's what that first midnight knock had been. Not a moment of crisis, but a moment of recognition. Two people finding each other in the dark. I love you, she said quietly. I don't think I've said that yet, but I do. I love you. Ethan's breath caught, because those 3 words changed everything. Made this real in a way it hadn't been before. Made the stakes higher, and the fall farther, and the possibility of getting hurt so much greater. I love you too, he said, because it was true and because not saying it felt like lying. She turned to look at him, eyes bright. Yeah? Yeah. Even though I'm a mess? Especially because you're a mess. That doesn't make sense. Sure it does. I like your mess. It matches mine. She kissed him, and it felt like a promise, like a beginning, like the start of something neither of them could predict, but both of them were willing to try. I'm still not moving in yet, she said when they broke apart. I know, but I want to, eventually, when I'm ready. I'll be here, whenever that is. You're very patient. I've had practice. She settled back against him, and they sat there in the quiet of his apartment, the city humming outside, the monitor on the coffee table showing Maya's steady breathing, and Ethan thought that this simple moment of just being together was worth every complication that had led to it. The sale of her stake in Hale Properties took 6 weeks to finalize. 6 weeks of lawyers and paperwork and board members trying every angle to stop her. They argued she was acting irrationally, that she needed more time to think, that grief had clouded her judgment. They threatened lawsuits and audits and every corporate weapon they could think of. Vanessa fought back with a calm that surprised even herself. She sat through their meetings, listened to their arguments, and then calmly explained that it was her company to sell, her decision to make, and their opinions were noted but irrelevant. She'd spent 3 decades being what other people needed her to be. She was done. The final meeting was brutal. Victoria and 2 other board members made one last attempt to convince her she was making a mistake. You're throwing away your legacy, Victoria said, her voice sharp with frustration. Your father built this company from nothing. He trusted you to carry it forward, and you're just walking away, selling it to the highest bidder like it means nothing. It doesn't mean nothing, Vanessa said evenly. It means everything to you, but to me, it's a job, one I've done well for years, one I'm now choosing to leave. Because of him. Victoria's eyes cut to Ethan, who'd insisted on coming despite Vanessa telling him it wasn't necessary. Because you think playing house with some construction worker is more important than running a billion-dollar company. Careful, Ethan said quietly, but there was steel underneath. No, it's fine. Vanessa stood up, and she felt taller than she had in months, lighter. You want to know why I'm leaving? It's not because of Ethan, though he did remind me what it feels like to be seen as a person instead of an asset. I'm leaving because I'm tired. I'm tired of meetings like this where my humanity is treated as a liability. I'm tired of being told my grief isn't valid because it's complicated. I'm tired of sacrificing my life for a company that would replace me in a heartbeat if I died tomorrow. My father built this empire, yes, but he also died at 58 from a heart attack brought on by stress, and I'll be damned if I follow him. She gathered her papers, signaled her attorney. We're done here. The sale goes through as planned. You'll have a new majority shareholder by end of week, and I'll transition to advisory as outlined in the contract. This meeting is over. Victoria looked like she wanted to argue more, but Vanessa was already walking out, Ethan right behind her. In the elevator, he took her hand. You okay? He asked. Better than okay. I should have done that years ago. Why didn't you? Because I thought I owed them something. My father, the company, the legacy. But I don't owe anyone my life. I get to choose what I do with it. The elevator doors opened to the lobby, and she walked out into the afternoon sun feeling like she could finally breathe. 3 days later, the sale was official. Vanessa Hale was no longer CEO of Hale Properties. She was just Vanessa, a woman with too much money and no idea what to do next. It's weird, she told Ethan that night. They were in his apartment, their apartment now, technically, since she'd officially moved in 2 weeks earlier after Maya had asked every single day when Vanessa was bringing her stuff. I thought I'd feel lost, but I just feel free. Good kind of free or terrifying kind of free? Both. Mostly good, though. She looked around at the space that was slowly becoming hers, too. Her books on the shelf next to his, her coffee mug in the cabinet, her clothes taking up half the closet in his bedroom. Small integrations that added up to a shared life. I keep waiting for the panic to hit, for me to regret it, but it hasn't happened. Maybe it won't. Maybe. She settled onto the couch next to him. I talked to a friend today, someone I went to college with who runs a nonprofit. They work with women trying to re-enter the workforce after divorce or abuse or incarceration. She asked if I'd be interested in consulting, helping them expand, maybe joining the board. What'd you say? I said I'd think about it, but I think I want to do it. It's not glamorous and it definitely doesn't pay what I'm used to, but it matters. I could actually see the impact instead of just reading reports about it. Sounds perfect for you. Does it? Because I have no idea if I'd be any good at it. All my experience is in real estate and acquisitions, not nonprofit work. You're good at seeing what needs to be done and making it happen. That skill transfers. She leaned her head on his shoulder. When did you become so wise? I've always been wise. You just weren't paying attention. Maya came running in from her room, where she'd supposedly been doing homework but had definitely been playing instead. Vanessa, can you help me with my math? Dad's bad at it. I'm not bad at math, Ethan protested. You counted wrong yesterday. Twice. I was tired. You're always tired. Thanks, monster. Love you too. Vanessa took Maya's worksheet and they worked through the problems together. Vanessa explaining in patient detail why you carried the one and how subtraction actually worked. Ethan watched them, his daughter chattering away while Vanessa listened with the same focus she probably once gave to merger negotiations and felt something settle in his chest. This was right, messy and imperfect and sometimes chaotic, but right. Later, after Maya was finally in bed, a process that took 45 minutes and 3 glasses of water, Vanessa stood in the bathroom brushing her teeth while Ethan changed into sleep clothes. I got a call from James's sister today, she said around her toothbrush. Yeah? What did she want? To tell me I was selfish for selling the company, that James would be disappointed in me, that I was destroying everything he and my father built. She spit, rinsed. I told her that James was planning to divorce me, that he'd been cheating on me for who knows how long, and that neither he nor my father got a vote in what I did with my life anymore. How'd she take that? About as well as you'd expect. Lots of shocked silence, and then something about how dare I speak ill of the dead. Vanessa turned to look at him. But here's the thing. I don't feel guilty. I thought I would. Thought I'd immediately regret being that honest, that harsh. But I don't. Because it was true, and I'm tired of protecting people's memories at the expense of my reality. Good. Is it? Because part of me wonders if I'm being cruel, if I'm using my anger at James to justify burning down everything connected to him. Are you? Justify it, I mean. She thought about it, really thought. No, I'm not. I sold the company because I didn't want to run it anymore. Because it was killing me slowly and I chose to live instead. James doesn't factor into it. Not really. Then you have your answer. She climbed into bed, their bed now, another small miracle she was still adjusting to, and curled into his side like she'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. Thank you, she said. For what? For not telling me what to do, for not trying to fix me or save me, for just being here while I figure it out. That's what partners do. Is that what we are? Partners? I think so, unless you have a better word for it. Boyfriend and girlfriend sounds juvenile. Agreed. Significant others sounds clinical. Also agreed. What about family? She asked quietly. Is that too much? He tightened his arm around her. No, that's exactly right. The next few months were an adjustment. Vanessa started consulting with the nonprofit and discovered she loved it. The work was hard and frustrating and sometimes heartbreaking, but it mattered in a way that quarterly earnings never had. She met women rebuilding their lives from scratch and saw herself in their determination, their refusal to let circumstances define them. She also discovered she was terrible at domestic life. She burned dinner more often than not, forgot to buy groceries, and had no idea how to work the washing machine. Ethan found it hilarious. Maya found it concerning. How did you live before? His daughter asked one evening after Vanessa had somehow managed to burn water. I ordered in. A lot. Or I didn't eat. That's sad. It really is. I'll teach you. Dad taught me and I'm 6. If I can learn, you can learn. So Maya became Vanessa's cooking instructor, a role she took extremely seriously. She made charts and schedules and very detailed instructions that Vanessa followed exactly. Progress was slow, but eventually Vanessa could make basic meals without setting off the smoke alarm. I'm proud of you, Maya announced one night after Vanessa successfully made spaghetti that was actually edible. You're getting better at being a person. That's the best compliment I've ever received, Vanessa said, and she meant it. Work was different too. Mike had been weird around Ethan for a few weeks after the board meeting, but eventually relaxed once it became clear that Ethan wasn't getting special treatment or trying to leverage his relationship with Vanessa for professional gain. I owe you an apology, Mike said one day over lunch. I thought you were using her, or she was using you. I don't know. The whole thing seemed messy. It is messy. Yeah, but it's real messy, not fake messy. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah. Fake messy is drama for drama's sake. Real messy is just life being complicated and you dealing with it. You two are dealing with it. Thanks, I think. That was a compliment. I'm saying you're good together. We are, Ethan agreed, and realized he believed it. They were good together. Not perfect, not easy, but good. And good was enough. 4 months after Vanessa moved in, they had their first real fight. She'd made plans for them to attend a charity gala without asking him first, assuming he'd be fine with it. He wasn't. He hated those events, hated the performative nature of them, and felt ambushed by her assumption. You should have asked me, he said, trying to stay calm. I thought you'd want to go. It's for a good cause. That's not the point. The point is you made a decision for both of us without including me in the conversation. I was trying to be efficient. You were trying to control the situation, like you controlled everything in your old life. But that's not how this works. She'd gotten defensive, which led to raised voices, which led to her storming out and not coming back for 3 hours. When she finally returned, she found Ethan sitting on the couch with Maya, who was pretending to read but was clearly listening to everything. I'm sorry, Vanessa said. You're right. I wasn't being efficient. I was being controlling, and that's not fair to you. I'm sorry too. For how I said it, I could have been less harsh. Maya looked up from her book. Are you going to kiss and make up now? That's what they do in movies. Life isn't a movie, monster, Ethan said. But you're still going to kiss, right? Vanessa laughed despite herself. Yeah, we're still going to kiss. They worked through it, talked about boundaries and communication and how to navigate decisions that affected both of them. It wasn't easy and it wasn't pretty, but they figured it out. And the next time Vanessa wanted to make plans, she asked first. Small victories. 6 months after moving in, Vanessa got a call from her late husband's attorney. James's estate had finally settled, and there were some personal effects she needed to collect. She'd been putting it off, not wanting to deal with the physical reminders of a marriage that had been dying long before he did. Do you want me to come with you? Ethan asked. Would you? Of course. The attorney's office was downtown, all glass and steel and expensive furniture. A box waited for her. James's watch, his wedding ring, some photographs, and a letter. The letter was sealed, addressed to her in his handwriting. She waited until they were back in the car to open it. Ethan sat in the driver's seat, giving her space but staying close. The letter was short, just a few paragraphs. James apologizing for the affair, for the divorce papers, for not having the courage to tell her in person that he wanted out. He explained that he'd been unhappy for years but didn't know how to say it, that he'd thought they could make it work but had finally accepted they couldn't, that he hoped she'd find someone who made her happy in a way he never could. Vanessa read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. He knew, she said, that we were both just going through the motions. He knew and he was planning to leave, and part of me is angry that he waited so long. But mostly I'm just sad for both of us, for the time we wasted pretending. What are you going to do with the letter? Keep it. Not because I need it, but because it's honest. And I want to remember that honesty matters more than comfort. That pretending everything's fine when it's not just makes everything worse. She looked at Ethan. I won't do that. With us. If something's wrong, I'll say it. Even if it's scary. Even if it's hard. Same, he said. No pretending. No pretending, she agreed. A year after that first midnight knock, they threw a party. Nothing fancy, just friends and neighbors and Maya's entire first-grade class crowding into their apartment with pizza and cheap wine and too much noise. Someone had brought a karaoke machine and everyone was taking turns massacring pop songs. Vanessa watched it all from the kitchen, slightly overwhelmed by the chaos, but also oddly content. A year ago, she'd been standing in an empty penthouse in a funeral dress, unable to face another night alone. Now she was here, surrounded by people who knew her as something other than a CEO or a widow. People who'd seen her burn dinner and cry over sad movies and struggle to braid Maya's hair. People who knew she was messy and imperfect and still wanted her around. You look happy, Ethan said, coming to stand beside her. I am. Is that weird? I feel like I shouldn't be this happy, like I haven't earned it yet. Happiness isn't something you earn. It's something you choose. When did you become a philosopher? Always been one. You're just noticing now. Maya appeared between them, dragging them both toward the karaoke machine. You have to sing, both of you, together. I'm a terrible singer, Vanessa protested. So's Dad. You'll be terrible together. That's the point. So they sang, some duet neither of them knew the words to, making up lyrics and laughing at how awful they sounded. And somewhere in the middle of that terrible performance, with their friends cheering them on and Maya recording the whole thing on a tablet, Vanessa felt something click into place. This was her life now. Not the polished, controlled version she'd been performing for 3 decades. The real version. Messy and loud and imperfect and completely hers. After everyone left and Maya was finally asleep, the sugar and excitement having taken forever to wear off, Ethan and Vanessa collapsed onto the couch, surrounded by the debris of the party. We should clean this up, Vanessa said without moving. We should. Neither of them moved. I talked to my lawyer today, she said after a while, about my will. I want to make sure Maya's taken care of if something happens to me. You don't have to. I want to. She's family. You both are. And I want to make it official. She turned to look at him. I'm not asking to adopt her or anything. I know that's a lot. But I want her to know she matters to me, that I'm committed to being in her life. She already knows that. Does she, though? Because I've been thinking about what it means to show up for people. Really show up, not just when it's convenient or easy. And I want to show up for her. For both of you. For the long haul. Ethan pulled her closer. You already do. But I want to do more. I want... She stopped, trying to find the words. I want what you said that first night. About being enough. I want to be enough for you and Maya. Not because of what I can provide or what I used to be, but because of who I am now. This version of me, the one who burns dinner and sings off key and doesn't have everything figured out. You are enough. You've always been enough. I'm starting to believe that. Finally. They sat there in the wreckage of the party, and Ethan thought about how far they'd come, how a midnight knock from a desperate widow had turned into this, a shared life, a chosen family, a future that wasn't perfect, but was real. I love you, he said. I love you too. Even though our apartment's too small and we both sing terribly and life is complicated, especially because of all that. 2 years after moving in, Vanessa and Ethan got married. Nothing big, just them and Maya and a handful of close friends at City Hall on a Tuesday afternoon. Vanessa wore a simple dress, cream-colored instead of white, and carried flowers Maya had picked out. Maya wore a dinosaur t-shirt under her fancy dress because she'd insisted and Vanessa had agreed immediately, understanding that sometimes you had to honor what mattered to the people you loved. The ceremony was quick. They said vows they'd written themselves, honest promises about showing up and being present and choosing each other even when it was hard. Maya stood between them holding the rings, taking her job as ring bearer extremely seriously. When the officiant said they could kiss, Maya made a face and announced loudly that kissing was gross, but she'd allow it this one time. Everyone laughed. Afterward, they went for ice cream. Just the three of them, sitting on a bench in the park while Maya detailed her plans for their future, which apparently included getting a dog, moving to a bigger apartment, and having at least 3 more dinosaur-themed birthday parties. That's a solid plan, Vanessa said seriously. I know. I've been working on it for weeks. What about school, college, career plans? I'm 7. I'll worry about that stuff later. That's fair. Ethan watched them talk, his wife and his daughter, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not just happiness, but peace. The bone-deep certainty that he was exactly where he was supposed to be, with exactly the people he was supposed to be with. What are you smiling about? Vanessa asked, catching him watching. Nothing. Everything. This is pretty good. Better than good. Yeah, she agreed. It really is. Maya finished her ice cream and immediately asked for more. When they said no, she launched into a negotiation strategy that would have impressed corporate lawyers. She didn't win, but she made a compelling argument. She's going to run the world someday, Vanessa observed as Maya finally accepted defeat and ran off to chase pigeons. Probably. Should we be worried? Nah. We'll have raised her. She'll be benevolent. You hope. I know. Vanessa took his hand. Thank you. For what? For opening your door that night, for not turning me away, for showing me what it looks like to actually live instead of just surviving. You did that yourself. I was there while you figured it out. You were more than there. You are everything. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I used to think I had to be perfect to deserve love, had to have everything together, no cracks, no weaknesses. And then I fell apart on your couch in terrible pajamas while crying into awful tea, and you loved me anyway. Not despite the mess, but including it, all of it. That's what love is. Showing up for the whole person, not just the polished version. I know that now, but I didn't then. You taught me. We taught each other. Maya came running back, breathless and excited. Can we get a dog now, since you're married and everything? Married people get dogs, it's the rule. That's not the rule, Ethan said. It should be. Well, think about it, Vanessa said, which made Maya's eyes light up because she knew we'll think about it was better than no. They walked home through the city as the sun started to set, Maya between them holding both their hands and swinging in a way that made walking impossible, but also made both adults smile. People probably saw them and thought they looked like any other family, a couple and their kid, nothing special. And in a way, they were right. There was nothing extraordinary about them. No fairy tale ending, no grand gestures, no dramatic declarations, just 3 people who'd found each other in the mess of life and decided to stay. Who chose each other every day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. That night, after Maya was finally asleep, a process that now took an hour because she'd wanted to hear 3 stories, give Vanessa a full report on her science project, and explain in detail why they needed a dog. Vanessa and Ethan stood in their small kitchen doing dishes. This is it, Vanessa said, handing him a plate to dry. What is? The life I want. This, right here. Dishes and bedtime routines and debates about dogs. This is what happy looks like. It's pretty ordinary. That's the point. I spent 30 years chasing extraordinary, building empires, making deals, proving I was worth something, and I was miserable. But this ordinary life with you and Maya, this is everything. He set down the dish and turned to face her. You know it won't always be this simple. We'll have hard days, we'll fight, things will get complicated. I know, and we'll handle it. Together, because that's what we do. Yeah, he said. That's what we do. They finished the dishes in comfortable silence, and then stood at the sink looking out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Vanessa's old life was continuing without her. Board meetings and acquisitions and quarterly reports. The machine she'd helped build was running just fine, proving that she'd been right. She wasn't indispensable. The company didn't need her. It never had. But Maya needed her. Ethan needed her. and she needed them. That was enough, more than enough. It was everything. No regrets? Ethan asked quietly. She thought about the penthouse and the power and the billions she'd walked away from, about the life she'd built and then dismantled, about the person she had been and the person she was becoming. No regrets, she said. Not a single one. Mom. And she meant it. Because the truth was, standing in a too-small kitchen doing dishes while her stepdaughter slept down the hall and her husband dried plates beside her, this was the life she'd been searching for all along. She just hadn't known it until she'd stopped running long enough to look around and see what she already had. Years later, when Maya was older and asked Vanessa about her first marriage, about the company, about all the things she'd left behind, Vanessa would think carefully about her answer. She'd want to tell her stepdaughter the truth, that sometimes the life you think you want isn't the life that will make you happy. That success and achievement and money and power are fine goals, but they're not substitutes for connection and love and being known. That it's okay to change your mind about what matters. That it's okay to walk away from things that look good on paper but feel wrong in your bones. But she'd also wanted to tell her that none of it was wasted. That every wrong turn had led her here, to this moment, to this family. That sometimes you have to build the wrong life before you can recognize the right one. That there's no shame in starting over, in admitting you got it wrong, in choosing differently. So you're happy? Maya would ask, because by then she'd be 16 and skeptical and too smart for easy answers. I'm happy, Vanessa would say, not because everything's perfect, but because I'm exactly where I want to be, with exactly the people I want to be with. That's all happiness is, really. Being in the right place with the right people and knowing it. But that conversation was years away. Tonight, Vanessa was just a woman doing dishes with her husband while their daughter slept, living an ordinary life that felt extraordinary because it was hers. Because she'd chosen it. Because she'd finally learned that the most important door to open wasn't the one to a boardroom, or a corner office, or an empire. It was the door that led home. The midnight knocks had stopped long ago. She didn't need them anymore. She had her own key now, and a place that was hers not because she owned it, but because she belonged in it. With people who loved her not for what she could do or who she'd been, but for who she was. Messy, imperfect, still figuring things out. But loved, always loved. And really, what more could anyone ask for?